Gilbert et Robert, bonjour.
Bonjour. Comment allez-vous?
Yeah. There they are. Yeah, they're muted too. Yeah. Hi, Paula. Yeah. So.
I'm going to give us a couple more minutes just to let people log on here and for us to say hello. You know, It's a sad occasion, but the one nice thing that comes out of it is connecting with everybody who has worked on this issue for so many years, a lifetime for you, Fritz.
Yeah, well, this is true. But I've told people earlier that, anybody who participated at all, and I know all of you on this call know this, who participated in doing work around the Lac-Mégantic Rail became personal for them.
Yeah.
So it was not just a matter of policy or something like that. It ends up becoming personal.
Yeah, and moreover, all of us would not be in this space together, would not know each other if not for what happened in Lac-Mégantic, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I'll give it one more minute and then we'll get started. I am, just so you know, Gilbert, I have gotten a lot of emails. There's a lot of people who would normally be with us today that are out of town because of the 4th of July, but we are recording and they are very interested in hearing from you. And I'm probably going to get a lot of comments once I get this out to them, and, we'll give you some of their feedback. I know they want to send their best wishes to you, and so we'll have things coming, but, I think we're going to have a decent turnout despite that. Just looking at the registration list, so I just want you to know, whatever we have today, it's going to be a lot more in a couple days. But, okay, you know what? I guess, you guys ready? I think we'll go ahead and get started. I know people will probably be joining as we go. But what I'd like to do is, this is a Candlelight Vigil. We're remembering the 47 victims of the Lac-Mégantic rail train derailment and explosion in Quebec, Canada. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with some updates with Railroad Workers United. Then we're going to hear from the citizens of Lac-Mégantic. And then we're going to hear the stories of the victims, and then we'll close with prayer. So that's kind of what our agenda is going to look like tonight. So 12 years have passed since the tragic train derailment that forever changed the heart of those in Lac-Mégantic. We gather to remember, to reflect, and to honor the lives lost, the families affected, and the strength of a community that continues to heal. In the Bible, the number 12 represents divine order, completeness, or perfection, particularly in the context of God's government and his people. It signifies a whole, a unified entity, and is often associated with leadership and authority. We'll start tonight's Candlelight Vigil with an opening prayer in memory of the 47 lives lost in Lac-Mégantic on July 6, 2013. I'm going to begin with lighting this candle. I do have it, and I will keep it burning throughout the vigil. If you have a candle, I invite you to light yours at this time. Heavenly Father, who is with us, please hear our prayer. Tonight we gather in the stillness, holding light against the shadow of loss. We remember the 47 precious souls taken too soon in the Lac-Mégantic tragedy. Each name a story, each life deeply loved, each memory continues to burn in our hearts. We lift up the families, their friends, and all who carry the weight of grief. Surround them with comfort that does not fade and strength that rises each day anew. We pray for the town of Lac-Mégantic, its people, its spirit, and its journey of healing. May this community always find hope through remembrance and peace through unity. As candles flicker, let them remind us that love endures, that even in the darkest night, compassion can shine through. Help us to walk gently in the memory of those we've lost and to carry their light into the world with kindness and care. Amen. I want to share a couple of highlights. In the Zoom link, once we get started, I'm going to put a few things. One, there is going to be a rally tomorrow, and there's a Zoom link if anybody wants to participate in that. I'll put more information about that in the chat. I also want to say, even though this is a day of grief, we do have a moment of happiness to share. A new light was brought into the world today. For anybody who's familiar with Tavengwa Renyoa, his wife gave birth to a new daughter, and we want to give congratulations to the new little addition to his family, daughter Evelyn Thandiwi Renyoa Ames. So I'd like to introduce Fritz Edler. He is a member of Railroad Workers United and has worked tirelessly for nearly a lifetime, definitely throughout his career, to improve conditions for railroad workers. Fritz?
Thank you all. And I know we have quite a few people who are not on video but are participating in the call, and more will be participating later by the recording. But greetings to you all. I think most of us know each other pretty well, and the reason we do is because in the 12 years since the tragedy of what happened in Lac-Mégantic, we have come to meet each other all across North America, all across Canada, all across the United States, to understanding the importance of not just commemorating every tragedy that is unnecessary, but that happens because of the way the policies are driven, but because particularly with the experience of Mégantic, and the main reason we have to thank for this is the people of the town of Lac-Mégantic who saw through all of the confusion and all of the misdirection and other things that were done by the MMA and others, that the really big story, the really big important story of how this is a continental problem was possible for more and more people to understand. And I can tell you, because I'm a lifelong railroader, I even have railroaders in my ancestry, that what usually happens when a tragedy like this happens is that the local people accept the explanation that's given to them by the corporations and the government. And in this case, the people of Mégantic stood up, and they did not do that. And that's the reason why today we can continue in what's happened over these years to be able to get more and more to the root of the problems and those liabilities and problems that continue. I see we're just joined by Bruce Campbell, which is a wonderful thing. So thank you all. I'm not going to take more time than that, because everybody who's really on the call now, I think, has understanding of the basic things. But it's really important, I think, that events like this, the one that's going to happen tomorrow in Teaneck and others around the country, all the kinds of media articles, all the kinds of things like that, they make it clear that we are not going to forget what happened in Lac-Mégantic. And that's all I have to say right now. But
well, thank you very much, Fritz. I'm going to introduce Gilbert and Robert Bellafleur. And after they speak, Bruce, if you're on, I would love for you to talk a little bit about the article that you sent out, and I will put a link to that in the chat as well. But both Gilbert and Robert, they have been such an enormous blessing in my life, but more importantly, to their entire community. They are liaisons. They've worked internationally for years, and they've fought just for basic safety, just for basic things, just to live life without having to be afraid. And they've stood up for their community against the government, against corruption of the railroad industry, I guess in my opinion, but I think there's a lot of evidence to back that up as well. They're heroes. And merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. And I would like to I'd like you to talk a little bit about the state of Lac-Mégantic 12 years after that horrendous night, and any other insights that you would like to share with the viewers.
Oh, thanks a lot, Jerry. But first, I'd like to congratulate you about the fight that you made and you won this bill, safety bill SB 71, that you're working to pass at the Illinois government. It's a great fight that you won. It's a great step ahead for the safety, people's safety, who are living by railroad, especially school kids and everybody living by, and I take advantage of this evening memorial, to be graceful, about what you did. You founded the La Coalition in Illinois, in Chicago suburb, and you did a lot since then, So I take this opportunity to congratulate Fritz and Paula, Bruce, and everybody else, Sarah, and you, and everybody, working to make every day a little bit safer, and you are showing that we are there, you are there, facing our authorities, that we need safety by the railroad, So this evening I take the opportunity, to say that it's an event, to sensibilize, North America's country, I mean USA, Mexico, and Canada, about the growing reality of railroad transportation danger, that days after days, there's also something, happening on the railroads, and an accident, somebody die, or a derailing, and a free running train, going down the hill, It's happening every day, And in 2022, Transport Canada Safety Board reported in 2022 225 accidents on main lanes, excuse my French, a raise of about 18% from the last 10 years average. Syndicate denounced workers' fatigue, under pressure, and a lack of personal staff. They're also reducing staff, especially on maintenance, and only sending, one operator, on a longer and heavier trains, So it's one of the reasons, that so many accidents are happening, And one of the reasons, that happened years ago in 1998, it's about the PSR, Precision Scheduled Railroading, a new enterprise management by the time that the goal for this new management, is to that been introduced by Mr. Hunter Harrison in the Canadian National in 1998, and in Canadian Pacific later in 2012, and it's to put more profit, in shareholders, and cutting in the staff, less employees on the maintenance, less employees in the offices, and less employees in the safety staff of companies, that they are also checking the condition of the railroad, So that's what and this new management, it's been followed after 2012, by almost all big companies, and the goal was to reduce really operating costs and having the maximum of productivity, One convoy, one operator on longer, heavier trains, like the one passing in Mégantic, 2 miles an hour, 2.5 miles long and more. Less maintenance, less employees, less stop on the travel, more pressure on our operators, more accidents, more crude oil tankers, and other hazardous products, more money for shareholders. The fatigue, a grave factor of accident. Canada's Transport Board delays to introduce working hours rule, with the result that CP's profit exploded by 500% from 2012 to 2022. In Canada, from 2020 for accident declare 24% more than 10 years average before. But the remuneration of the high management staff based on the PSR system brings more money in the pockets of those people, but brings worries in Canada's Safety Board. An American report of Government Accountability Office noted that employees decreasing on maintenance in railroad companies contribute raising accident rating. In 2024, I'll be talking about some guys downstate. In 2024, before the election in state last year, Senators Marco Rubio, our senator from Florida, and this guy named J.D. Vance, who is now vice president, raised their voice against the PCR management. Where are they now? They don't talk really loud now, eh? Well, we know those guys, So, it was the main factor that caused East Palestine derailing by February 3rd, 2023, okay? And Rubio and Mr. Vance raised their voice, and they declared that the cause of East Palestine derailing was in the people staff, and in the train maintenance. But now they keep silent. Here in Lac-Mégantic, we're still waiting for Canada's Transport Office Board for the contour lane project. Still we are. By the time, even after little improvements on the railroad, we see a lot of rotten ties, broken culverts, rail sections springing in the mud, and an erosion system by the railroads. Us, Lac-Mégantic Coalition for Railroad Safety, are staying alive, and we can't relieve our vigilance to put our citizens in jeopardy. And that's why this Memorial Day got to sensibilize North America people about dangerosity living by railroads. So those flowers on railroad in their neighborhoods all over North America, in states, would encourage the population, pushing our governments to rule the companies to respect safety laws. And we'll continue to collaborate on both sides of the border to change things and to work with you peoples on both sides, in states and in Canada, everywhere, even in Mexico. And I especially thank you, Jerry, for this opportunity, to show what we are living up here in Lac-Mégantic and the anxiety that we have, living by longer and longer trains and heavier trains and more dangerous. So I thank you, and I let the space to our friend on this in this evening. I thank you. I thank everywhere. Salutation to Bruce and Sarah, Paula, and Fritz, and everybody around. That will collaborate. We will collaborate together and to bring peace by the railroads. Thanks, Jerry.
Does Robert have any words he'd like to?
I will translate, Robert. It's quelque chose à...
Thank you for your good job in USA. It's the best for us in Canada. Thank you.
No. Okay, it's all right. And I got quelque chose à dire, Claude. That's our collaborate.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
She's in the coalition.
Yeah.
Claude.
Yeah, I guess you remember me. And
yeah.
I see your dogs behind. Okay, thank you very much for all what you are doing for us. Okay, thank you very much. And by the same time, what you do for us, you do it for you too also.
I want to point out how extraordinarily humble these people are, because tonight is about them. And I just want to bring to people's attention that you guys have spent a lot of time thanking us. We need to be thanking you. It's the unfortunate incident that happened in your backyard that you gave us the opportunity to learn from. Now it's up to us to keep it from happening again. So God bless you guys.
Well, God bless you all you people from states and all over Canada, and we'll keep working like a great team, and the door is also our communication is also open up here, so the same as you are down there, Jerry. So have a nice evening.
Thank you. For Gilbert and Robert and the coalition. If you
I want to thank you so much, all of you from Lac-Mégantic, and the work you've been doing and supporting the work we're doing here in the States. I'm sure you feel the same way we do about the Trump administration. Last time Trump was in, he appointed the vice president of CSX Railroad to be the head of the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Committee. And his job was to take away the regulations, get rid of all the regulations, prevent any kind of decent legislation, federal legislation. And so now we're in the same position again. There's not a new person heading. There's somebody who's temporarily heading that agency. But I think all of us are worried. And while we're fighting for federal legislation the way you are, we have to do what Jerry and all have been doing, is fighting for state legislation, some things that we can regulate in our states. So We have to just continue to support each other's work, share information. Jerry, thank you for sending us copies of the law you got passed, because we have to learn from each other's work. And it's a really difficult fight because even the Democrats and the Republicans have made it very difficult to pass legislation. So we're in this fight together.
Definitely. And I just want to respond to Gilbert mentioned J.D. Vance, that, you know, he's a senator from Ohio, which is where East Palestine happened. And he went, you know, at the time when he was a senator and East Palestine happened, he went with the locals in the creeks. Like, he knows that there's contamination. And he also helped to draft the Railway Safety Act of 2023, remember? And I was in East Palestine on the second anniversary back in February, and I was with the people in the streets who were waiting for him, thinking that he would come and talk to them, and he did not. And it was the saddest thing as I watched them, like, drop like flies and walk away, like, defeated. Some of them are sick. Like, the town is still poisoned. I in the creeks when I was there, and there's still contamination. Some of the people went in and found contamination just like a week or two ago. So it's still an ongoing issue. And yeah, where is he? That's exactly right. So
You
you
answer my question.
too.
Yeah, yes, Sarah. You answered the question about what I'm asking about Mr. Vance and Mr. Rubio, you know, where they are, you know, to
Right.
your brother
Exactly
the
right.
answer.
Yeah, you're exactly
Thanks.
right. Where are they? Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. See, look, you live in Canada and you know. Oh.
Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to direct toward our speakers? If not, then we are blessed again with Bruce Campbell. He's known for his background on policy. After the Lac-Mégantic derailment, he wrote a book. Please say the name of your book, because I don't have it in front of me, and I know I'm going to get it's a long name, and I'm going to get it wrong. It's about the Lac-Mégantic. I know I have it here in the background.
The subtitle is, oh, God. Oh, God.
I can tell you all about the book.
Public Betrayal, Justice
There we
Denied.
go. Public Betrayal, Justice Denied. And then there's something after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have the book with me.
Sarah's getting it.
Thank you, Sarah.
Oh my gosh. This is what happens when I'm not prepared. You just wrote an article. Do you want to tell us about the article you just wrote?
Well, the article is a remembrance article. I can read you a few excerpts from it. I think you circulated it. I just want to say, my ex-colleague lost 3 members of her extended family. It's hard to talk about it without choking up. And the 2 little girls, Bianca and Alyssa, and their mother, Talitha Coumi. And I think of them all the time. But let me just read just a few excerpts from my remembrance. The 47 people who died that night, their hopes and dreams obliterated, futures wiped out. And their deaths were collateral damage of the culmination of policy decisions stretching back more than the previous 3 decades, mutually reinforcing policies of deregulation, privatization, and fiscal austerity. Power relationships that subordinated government's obligation to protect the public to the private interests of corporations. They all aligned that night. And, you know, an essential part of the remembrance that you've organized, and I'm so grateful for you for doing it. But the essential part of this remembrance is not to forget what happened, why it happened, and who is responsible. And the activists in Mégantic and across North America continue to fight to uncover the truth behind the disaster, to keep its memory alive, to prevent history from repeating itself. So.
You know, it was the faces of those two little girls. Those faces were the faces that never let me turn away from this issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Bruce. We're going to go to Sarah. Sarah is going to bring us through she's going to talk to us about the victims. She's got pictures to show us. So do you want to share your screen, Sarah, or are you just going to hold it up?
I don't think I need to because, I planned on just holding them up. I thought that would be easier than trying to get all of them on the computer, and I'm not a tech person.
If viewers want to put their screen on speaker view, it's up in the right-hand corner, and you'll be able to see Sarah better.
So, when I hold up the photo like this, you can see it okay?
Yes.
So I feel really bad, Bruce, especially like all of you from Mégantic. I'm just, it's hard enough for me to talk about it and for us in the U.S. to hear about it. But for you guys, I just feel absolutely awful. Like I don't want to trigger you. And I'm just so sorry that you have to bear this burden on your heart in such a greater way than we can even imagine. I really don't know what to say. And I'm just sorry for everyone for all of it. I think this is the portion of the program now where everybody needs to make sure they have their tissues handy. And then please, my Canadian friends, if I did try and get some guidance from my old French teacher who I'm still in touch with on how to pronounce these names, but if I'm incorrect, please don't hesitate to correct me because it's very important that I say them right. So yes, we're going to start out with, this is Talitha. Is that correct? Talitha Coumi Beignoche?
Beignoche.
Okay. How do you say that?
Beignoche.
Beignoche. Thank you. Yeah, this is Talitha and her daughters Alyssa and Bianca. Talitha was 30 and Alyssa was 4 and Bianca was 9. Talitha was discreet, almost secretive. She loved dancing, was passionate about reading, and dreamed of becoming a writer. She had majored in special education. This was a sweet woman, introverted and very sensitive. Alyssa would have started daycare that fall. She loved music. She was dancing before she could walk. She'd memorized song lyrics with disconcerting ease. She only had to listen to a song once and she could sing it. Bianca was sweet like her little sister. She disliked violence. She would change the channel when she happened to see an action movie on TV. She had the same romantic side as her mom. She could spend hours dressing up and put polish in her hair. Mother and her young daughters were all burned while they slept in their home. Alyssa was identified as the 39th victim. Bianca's remains were never found. And that's something that people need to understand who haven't done a lot of work around Lac-Mégantic is, yes, that this was not just people dying. This was people being incinerated and needing to be found through their remains. And some of the families never got that closure. And they didn't really get closure anyway, because they never got to say goodbye. So we have here Marie Semi Alliance and Jimmy Sirois. Marie was 22 years old. She was a retirement benefit clerk at a residence for the elderly in Lac-Mégantic. She was profoundly in love with Jimmy. They planned on getting married soon. She had already started to plan their dream wedding and started shopping for their perfect wedding gown. Jimmy was 30. He was a machine operator at the Lambton ports. A big fan of Star Wars, he was a funny individual and known for being the life of the party. He was also very attentive and could give very good advice. Very much in love with his Marie Simi after visiting her at the Musée Café, it didn't take long for him to find her. This is until the train destroyed their house. Their deaths left behind their daughter, Miliana, who was barely 18 months at the time. Jimmy's parents had just come to visit for the day before, Jimmy's parents had just come for a visit the day before and had taken Miliana. And that's another important thing to know too, is all the children who were left as orphans. Do you guys know how many exactly, how many orphans from Lac-Mégantic there are?
27 children
27 children.
lost their parents.
Yeah, you're right, Bruce. 27 children.
I just had chills. All right. This one hits me too because I read, Bruce, in your book how you wrote about Gaëtan Lafontaine and Joni Turmel. Did I say them right?
Yep.
Gaëtan was 33. He was a visionary and a leader. Honest and expressive, he doesn't hesitate to say, "I love you" to people. A hard worker, he was demanding on himself and others, but his priority was his daughters and Joni, whom he wanted to marry. Joni was 29. She was an artist with a good sensibility. It's her airhead side that makes people laugh and bring them beautiful madness. She has an easy laughter and a gift to enjoy life. Joni and Gaëtan were both found in the Musée Café. Their deaths left behind their 2 young daughters, 6-year-old Marie-Lou and 3-year-old Anna, orphans of both their parents. I mentioned to Jerry before we started that it would be nice if we have time, if those of you who knew the victims could say something about them, and reading about Gaëtan and Joni and Bruce's book was very powerful. All right. Now we have Karine Champagne and Stéphane Beaulieu. Can you see the photos okay? Karine was 36 years old. She had studied at Palévé-Montignac High School in Lac-Mégantic and went on to own a home daycare. She was passionate about the outdoors, above all, hiking in the mountains. Very sporty, her touch football coach nicknamed her Roadrunner because she ran so fast. A notable thought from Karine says, "For every minute of anger, you lose 60 seconds of happiness." And I have carried that with me ever since I learned that. I just think that's beautiful. Stéphane was 37 years old and a former firefighter. He was passionate about cars and an excellent salesperson at O'Day Automobiles in Lac-Mégantic. Stéphane was a person who looked good and felt good. He was proud and full of life. Sporty and an outdoors person, he engaged in several activities with sweet Karine, whom he had recently become a fiancé. According to his brother, Stéphane was believed to be at the Musée Café for his birthday. Karine was found there, but Stéphane's remains were never found. Their deaths left behind 11-year-old Loïc and 19-year-old Nathan, orphans of their mother. And this is Karine with her sons. Okay, this is Marianne Poulin and Kevin Roy. Do you just say Roy? Or is it like a special? Okay. Marianne was 23 years old. She had always placed others' well-being above hers. She constantly had a smile and was always there for her best friend. On first glance, this was a timid and reserved girl, but when you got to know her, it was different. She loved animals and took care of them. Her remains were found in her apartment near the Musée Café. Kevin was 29 years old and was a tinkerer. He was gifted with his hands ever since he was young. He was also a curious person. His death left a void in his loved ones, who simply wanted to let people know that he was loved and that he will stay in their hearts. His death was confirmed by the coroner's office. Marianne and Kevin were the parents of 2 young infants, Patrick and Laurence, who are now orphans. Kevin left behind his daughter Shirley. This was Louisette, Poirier, Picard, and Wilfred Ratch. Louisette was 76 years old and a very generous woman, proud and a good cook. She also loved to make jokes on her friends. She was good at bowling in her youth and did cross-country skiing. Wilfried was 77 years old. After his retirement from Air Canada, he moved to Lac-Mégantic with his partner. The lovers were together for more than 30 years. Wilfried had sea legs. He was an excellent swimmer and had a passion for sailing. All right, so here we have 3 servers from the Musée Café. This was, correct me too if I'm wrong, Andréane Sévigny, oui, and Jo-Annie Lapointe, et Elodie Tot.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Elodie Turcotte, huh?
Elodie Turcotte. Elodie Turcotte.
Elodie Turcotte. Okay.
Yeah, Turcotte.
Merci. Was 26 years old. She was very energetic and had the drive. When she decided on something, nothing can stop her. Between work and dance classes in which she performed, she was determined to undertake studies in nursing. Jo-Annie was 20 years old and had been a social worker. She was very playful and laughed all the time. So much so that she couldn't stop from peeing her pants. That's a running joke. When she laughed too much, she'd yell, "Stop, I'm going to pee my pants." She was never afraid of ridicule, and she lit up other people's lives. Elodie was 18 years old. She was studying to be a musician and had worked at the Musée Café for less than a month. She loved her job and brought to it a lot of effort. Elodie was a magical girl. She was a real go-getter who went with her boyfriend on motocross to leave tracks on the landscape of Canton de l'Est, which is a popular tourist and getaway spot west of Lac-Mégantic. Very active, she would also go four-wheeling. This was a girl who was full of energy. All 3 servers were found at the Musée Café. All right. Now we have 3 friends. 3 amis. All right. This is Jean-Guy Veilleux, Stéphane Lapierre, et Réal Cousteau.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right, Sarah.
Merci.
Got it, yeah.
Merci. Jean-Guy was 32 years old and had studied at Paulé-Vaillant Montignac High School. Jean-Guy was someone that he was generous and always ready to help. This very present doting father was always protective of his 12-year-old daughter Fanny and wanted nothing bad to come to her. This father and daughter were very close. Now she's an orphan. Stéphane was 45 years old and always of good humor. He never complained and wasn't afraid of work. He laughed at anything. He had an easy smile. This was a quiet person, shy and discreet. Yet he was a big success with his children, a real charmer. His death left behind 18-year-old Marie and 15-year-old Dave, orphans of their father. Jean-Guy and Stéphane's deaths were confirmed by the coroner's office. Réal was 57 years old. He loved freedom and people. He had lots of friends. He was particularly proud of his long hair. For him, it was gold. Réal drew immense pleasure from small things like music, walking, and horses. Okay, now we have 4 childhood friends. Eric Pépin La Jeunesse.
Jerry Noël.
La jeunesse, yeah. La jeunesse, yeah.
Jerry Noël.
Mathieu Pelletier. Maxime Dubois. Et David Lacroix-Baudouin.
That's all right. That's right.
Merci. Okay. Eric was 28 years old. A young carpenter, he had built his entire house by hand, a masterpiece of which he was very proud. He was meticulous and a perfectionist, a man who was sweet, tender, sensible, passionate, and attentive. He had an uncommon sense of humor and was always there to help out his family and friends. Mathieu Pelletier was 28 years old and a high school teacher at Polyvalent-Montignac. He did not grow up in Lac-Mégantic, but had lived there for several years with his wife and son. He was also involved in amateur sports. In 2012, he started a hockey school for 5 to 17-year-olds. He had a spirit that may be summarized as don't worry, be happy. Calm and reassuring, he found a solution to each problem. He loved children and was constantly surrounded by them. He never missed an opportunity to play with his son. His death left behind his 4-year-old son, Edouard, and his widow. Maxime Dubois was 27 years old. He was passionate about video games and action movies. He would say that in games in general, that he could beat everyone. He knew everything and was brilliant. When he was small, he could put together puzzles without looking at the picture, and his Legos were the apple of his eye. Truly the life of the party, he was truly the resident clown. Maxime and his partner were expecting their baby daughter, Anais, who was born 4 days after the death of her father. David Lacroix-Baudouin was 27 years old. He was a window washer and a steeplejack in Switzerland, where he lived for many years. His work brought him into the mountains, where he climbed tall telecommunication towers. David was a funny guy, full of life, active, intense, and he was extreme everything. Passionate about sports, he juggled his time between hockey, soccer, the triathlon, and climbing. He was returning to live with his family, with whom he was very close. His death was confirmed by the coroner's office. These were two friends on a guy's night out, David Martin and Michel Junior Guertin.
It's all right, Sarah.
David was 36 years old. Wherever he went and whatever he was doing, he always had his camera on him. He constantly volleyed his friends with his camera flash. He was also a lover of nature, someone of great integrity, and always there for his family. Michel was 33 years old. Cars were his second passion in life right after his family. He had not one but 2 Mustangs in his garage because he loved their engines. He loved going for a ride with his kids and his mother in his precious 1969 Mustang, which he planned on rebuilding. But nothing mattered more to him than his 2 angelic children and his partner. His death left behind 4-year-old Adrienne and 9-year-old William, orphans of their father. David and Michel were both found at the Musée Café. This is 2 friends. Marie-France Boulet and Richard Veilleux.
Yeah, it's all right.
Marie-France was 62 years old and was the owner of Marie-Lou, a very popular lingerie store in downtown Lac-Mégantic. Overly loyal and dedicated, we feel a unique and important thanks to her. Very respectful and attentive to her customers, she gave her time without counting. She was also very funny and always had more than one way to make people laugh. The explosions destroyed the building where she lived and worked. Richard was 63 years old and close to retiring and returning to live with his family in Saint-Georges-des-Beauce, which is a town a little north of Lac-Mégantic. He wasn't handy with his hands, but he becomes the best helper when people are in need. He is a man of confidence, reliable, and attentive to his children and grandchildren. His death left behind Sophie and Francis. Denise Dubois was 57 years old. A professional chef, Denise always was on the lookout for new recipes that she would love her family to taste. She loved to host her relatives at her home. She didn't have children, but she played the role of second mother to her brothers and sisters. Each day she savored the little joys in life that came her way. She was always the first to dance at a family gathering. She was also the only one who knew the Charleston. She lived a good life. Diane Betsier was 46 years old. Diane was a woman with a big heart, funny, adored by her friends, and loved by her children. She loved life. She met her love at her job and built the perfect happiness with him. She confided to her girlfriend that she never felt so fulfilled. Her death left behind her children, 19-year-old Billy and 17-year-old Megan. Her remains were found at the Musée Café. Eliane Parenteau Boulanger was 93 years old. She was a smiley person and full of life. Everyone remembers her mischievous side and her good humor. She loved to invite the world to her home and share a glass of wine with them. Her death left behind her son Michel. She was the first victim to be found. Frédéric Boutin was 19 years old. He was about to follow in his father's footsteps to study in industrial mechanics. There is nothing he wouldn't do. Even while young, he said he was going to do everything. He never backed down from any obstacle. He was a responsible young man who could not stand incompetence. Frédéric had an apartment near the Musée Café. His death was confirmed by the coroner's office. Geneviève Breton was 28 years old. A student in teaching, she was also involved in singing contests like Star Academy, like our American Idol. She was a good listener. She was a resplendent and admirable woman. Her first album was scheduled to be released in mid-July. Her parents decided to continue pursuit of her dream and to finish the project of her life. The album All of Us is available. According to her family, Geneviève had left the Musée Café minutes before the derailment, but had returned quickly to buy a bottle of water. She never came back out. Her remains were found at Musée Café. Guy Boldu was 43 years old. A musician from Chicoutimi, he had been singing in bars around Quebec. Guy had created a large family with his generosity, his giving, his camaraderie, his talent, and his love for others. He loved music and had fallen in love with country music. He was someone who found joy in anything, a good living that always made jokes, always living in good humor. He was a great guy and an exemplary father. He was performing with his band at Musée Café at the time of the explosions, and his body was found there. His death left behind 16-year-old Samuel and 14-year-old Anne Clara, orphans of their fathers. Henriette La Tulipe was 61 years old. She was passionate about her profession as a beautician in Lac-Mégantic. She was also the daughter of a former federal minister of parliament, Henri La Tulipe. Henriette was a shower of goodness, tenderness, and sweetness. She was Lady Happiness. She was not just a mother and mother. She was more than that. She was the core that held everyone together. Her death left behind her two children, Marie-Josée and Jean-René. Jacques Giraud was 65 years old and a truly fun person. He always made jokes that made people laugh. He loved to tease others. He was a great person to talk with. He enjoyed his retirement. Karine Lafontaine was 35 years old. An administrative assistant, Karine lived a good life. She never refused an invitation. Her passion was children. She could have had 14. She was a woman of heart. Her romantic story with Pascal began at prom and lasted until the derailment. He was the man of her life. She was at the Musée Café with her husband. Somehow he survived, but her remains were found there. Her death left behind 3 children, 13-year-old Angelique, 11-year-old Rosemary, and 7-year-old Clément, orphans of their mother. This is Cathy Clouzio. She was 24 years old. She had just moved to downtown Lac-Mégantic and had planned on opening her own physiotherapy clinic. Kathy sowed happiness wherever she went. In her 24 years, she'd lived a life more than a 50-year-old could have lived. She made good use of her time. She always had a project waiting for her. One sleeps tomorrow was the expression she always had. And she always wanted to make 4 copies of herself to do everything she wanted to do. The joy of living. She was very fulfilled. We can't even say goodbye, her aunt said. Her death was...
Sarah, I would like to add something for Kathy. Her father passed last spring, And Jean, her father was following the trial of the 3 operators, in Sherbrooke, and her father was really active, in that trial, and he passed it last spring. So just a word to say about her father. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that. I did not know that, and that makes me sad because, yes, I think it was even him in the photo hugging, was he hugging Thomas or Richard from
yeah, he also kept friends with them, He never had anything to say about those 3 operators,
Yeah.
And he'd been following the trial every day in Sherbrooke,
Yeah.
Supporting these 3 guys,
He seemed like a good man. Yes, thank you for sharing that. That's awful.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Now we have Lucy Vadnais. She was 49 years old. The owner of a family daycare for 18 years, she was a friendly woman overflowing with love. A true mother hen. Fond of motorcycles and travel, she had a gift for bringing people together, helping people, and resolving conflicts. Her death left behind her 24-year-old son, Francois. Her remains were found at Musée Café. Marie-Noëlle Fauché was 36 years old. A real fighter, she always saw the good side of things. She fought to provide a good life for her sons, to make sure they went down the right path. She meant a lot to them, to the point of being the team manager of her son Tristan's hockey team. At the same time, she was also occupied with a league of women's hockey. She also had a real passion for frogs. She had dozens of them of all kinds. It was believed that she was at the Musée Café at the time the explosions occurred, but her remains were never found. Her death left behind 18-year-old Sébastien and 15-year-old Tristan, orphans of both their parents. The father had died a few months earlier. Jean-Pierre Roy was 56 years old. He had a construction company and loved his job. He was a gentle man and very positive who always encouraged his 3 children, regardless of what they chose to do. Every evening he would spend a moment together with his daughter. He was someone who loved to laugh. He loved people. He loved life. His remains were found at Musée Café. His death left behind his 3 children, 22-year-old Carol Ann, 21-year-old Maxime, and 17-year-old Emmanuel. Yves Boulay was 51 years old. He handled the Health and Safety Committee at his job. He was the president of his union and a formidable negotiator under the Commission for Occupational Injuries. He would not tolerate negligence. He thinks of others and solidarity as one of his principal values. He was a true musician with a big heart who was involved in 1,001 projects. He was in the band that was performing at Musée Café at the time of the derailment, and his remains were found there. Martín Rodríguez was 48 years old. Martín learned at a young age from his father how to carve tombstones. With a chisel and a mallet in hand, there was no equal. Discreet and reserved, he had a skin-deep sensibility and understood things without people having to tell him. He was an artist in his soul. He also had a passion for birds. He was working as a sound technician for the band that was performing at the Musée Café with his friend Yves. Mélissa Roy was 29 years old. According to her Facebook page, she worked at Masonite International Corporation, which is a door manufacturer. Melissa sang all the time. A few years ago, she recorded a cover album. Her greatest dream was to have a child. She lost her first baby in December 2012. She lived at 100 kilometers per hour. Involved in everything, energetic and smiling and bringing people together, she was a true ray of sunlight for her friends. Her death was confirmed by the coroner's office. Natasha Godreau was 41 years old. Providing for her 2 children, Natasha worked 3 jobs, but that didn't stop her from making time for her hobbies. Hiking, swimming, salsa classes, and trips to Mexico. She was an admirable person, hardworking, a strong character, and with a winning disposition. She was a role model for her children. Her remains were found at Musée Café. Her death left behind 13-year-old Edouard and 17-year-old Estelle, orphans of their mother. Roger Paquet was 61 years old. Close to a well-deserved retirement, he had an all-consuming passion for golf. He was a member of the local golf club that posted a black flag at the 10th hole after his death. He had been a machine controller at Granules Combustibles Energetics Incorporated for 30 years. He was a very present father in the lives of his children, always there to listen to them, to give advice and to help. He was generous, a true superhero who went to his family's rescue. He was a teaser and loved to annoy everyone and make jokes. His death left behind his 2 children, Guy and Laurine. His death was confirmed by the coroner's office. Sylvie Charon was 50 years old. All her life she was a cook. Everyone appreciated her. She was a true gem, a doting mother, and a grandmother of gold. She was a present woman, attentive, generous, and who gave her all. She really loved to help and did so with a smile. Sylvie knew how to comfort people, and she gave everyone a boost of energy. Her remains were found at Musée Café. Her death left behind her 2 children, 22-year-old Cynthia and 17-year-old Alexandra, orphans of their mother. And we have Yannick Bouchard. He was 36 years old. Those who had a little too much to drink in the bars in Lac-Mégantic. He liked meeting people. He finished his truck driving courses and planned for a fresh start. Resilient, he was never discouraged easily. He was an optimist. Quiet and reserved, he was starting to express himself. He lived in an apartment with his mother, who was not in the area when the explosions occurred. His death was confirmed by the coroner's office. His death left behind 17-year-old Mylène and 15-year-old Laurie, orphans of their father. And that is all for the victims who were incinerated immediately. If anybody wants to say any words about the firefighter who took his own life afterwards, the 48th victim, and I thought I remembered hearing there was somebody else too. We need to make sure that we're honoring everybody's memory that we can. If anyone wants to fill any gaps on that or say anything about the victims, please don't hesitate. And thank you everybody for listening.
Sarah, I want to thank you for reminding us tonight that 47 is not a number. In Lac-Mégantic, what it is, it's an interconnected community of people. And tonight we celebrate those lives that were lost in Lac-Mégantic. Is there anybody who wanted to share anything? If not, then we can go to a closing prayer. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to ask for a moment of silence just to try to take all of that in. That was a lot. Sarah, thank you. Yes.
This is Fritz. Just very quickly, this is certainly not that important a story, but I'll tell it very quickly. I went back and forth to Mégantic 6 or 7 times in the course of the time that we were doing the defense and the solidarity work. And each of those times, because I was coming from the United States, there was some concern whether maybe there would be a problem at the border, because it was considered to be a political question and whatnot like that. And I just want to tell this one little thing that surprised me, which was one of the times when I was returning to the United States, and in this case, I was coming back by car. I, had to go through the U.S. side, customs side, and initially I was anxious about what might happen in that situation, and the person was very gruff with me and asked me, what I had been doing and this, that, and the other. And in this case, for whatever reason, I made the decision to just say, look, I went to Lac-Mégantic and I went there to be part of a solidarity event and whatnot. And at that moment, that person, that representative, whatever like that, completely changed. And he changed because he was a firefighter. He was a firefighter in Maine. And he had been one of the people who had been called up to help in fighting the blaze for the week where the fires burned in Megantic. And he for just a brief moment, I guess you could say, he almost became a friend, another person who understood the tragedy, understood what had happened there. And I just, there were many, many, many people that were affected by what happened there. And I just thought I would add that.
Thank you, Fritz. Okay. Then I'd like to ask for a brief moment of silence. I'll be blowing out our candle and closing prayer. In remembrance of the 47 victims of Lac-Mégantic, God of eternal presence, mercy, and love, as we come to the close of this vigil, we carry with us the light of remembrance. We have spoken names, held silence, shared grief, and honored life. Today, we remember the 47 souls who were lost. May their memory be a blessing, their lives a legacy of love, their stories never forgotten. We thank you for the strength of this community, for the resilience of Lac-Mégantic, for those who endure, who support, who remember. As we extinguish our candles, may the flame remain in our hearts. Let it guide us toward compassion, toward justice, and towards peace. May we live in a way that honors those we've lost, with gentleness, with courage, and with care for one another. Go with us now in quiet reflection and lasting solidarity. May love surround us. May memory sustain us. And hope carry us forward. Amen. Thank you all for coming tonight. Yes.
I actually do, before we close, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure we were going to say the prayer just quite yet, but before we close, I would like to read a little bit from Bruce's book and just encourage anyone who hasn't purchased it yet, especially those of us in the States here who can't see the Lac-Mégantic documentary, that this is a great way to be able to learn more about what happened there, firsthand accounts, and many things that we don't normally hear about. So this part here in the book is at the time of the derailment, on page 99, and the part with our friend Gilles. Gilles Flouet had left the Musée Café a little earlier than usual and was walking home along Frontenac Street. He saw the train hurtling toward him at high speed, then derail and explode. The train missed me by 4 feet, he said. The heat from the explosion melted the nylon fibers of his shirt deep into his skin. Inside the Musée Café, there was a first vibration, like an earthquake, then another, this time more violent. People froze, not realizing what was happening. The power failed. The bar went black and then was illuminated by a blinding orange light outside. Christian Lafontaine was at the back of the bar, and he reacted quickly. Grabbing his wife, Melanie Gerard, he pulled her outside. She had just wanted to hide. Everyone wanted to hide, Lafontaine recalled. There was no screaming, but with the orange light coming through the windows, many people mistakenly thought it was safer to stay inside the bar rather than go outside. They were the last Café alive. At the front door, Lafontaine encountered his brother Gaetan, who was going back in to get his wife, Joni Turmel, who had gone into the washroom. Outside, Christiane saw a wave of fire as wide as the street coming toward them. When I saw the fire coming down the street, I knew it was oil, he said. I just started running, racing south. Behind them, tank cars began exploding as buildings crackled in the heat. They reached the south end of town and crossed the bridge over the Chaudière River, fearing downtown would turn to ash. Gaetan's body was found near his wife Joni's at the back of the bar. They were together. They found each other, Christiane said. That makes me feel better. The two had been childhood sweethearts. I could go on. I just think it's important to talk about that in those initial moments because, you know, fear of what it must be like to watch your town on fire. You know, in East Palestine didn't have, you know, loss of life, immediate loss of life, or their town, you know, be incinerated like Lac-Mégantic, but they still had, you know, they still live that nightmare that I still have, you know, of watching your town on fire. You know, it's just important that people try and I'm not speaking to any, I know I'm preaching to the choir in this space here, but to anybody, you know, maybe watching this or just moving forward, you know, the people who don't understand this situation yet or haven't let it in, that, you know, anybody who has a rail line going through the community with hazardous materials, this could happen to any of us. And so, you know, it just really is important to try and let this in as much as you can and make yourself feel it, because you don't want that to happen in the community. And so encouraging as many people as we can to be rail safety advocates, to, you know, understand how important rail safety legislation is, how important it is that there's industry accountability and oversight. These are bells we need to keep ringing as we move forward so we can try and do whatever we can to prevent this from happening somewhere else. Lac-Mégantic, we're not going anywhere. We're with you. We've been with you. Oh, Mark, it's nice to see you. How are you? Glad you could hop on. Hey, buddy. Do you have any words you want to share?
Well, I could add a few words, that our thoughts, are for East Palestine, people and everybody in the world, are suffering about this kind of tragedy, and employers who are dying, at their work, and let them know that they are in our thoughts, So I thank you, Sarah, for your intervention, and I see you. I speak to you tomorrow evening, Paula. So thanks for everything, Thanks.
Yeah, I would just like to credit Paula's event tomorrow as what helped to inspire us to have this one now. And thank you, Jerry, too, for nudging us to do something, because we need as much of this as we can get. And definitely Bruce, thank you to everybody who came. And then I also need to give credit to, I think it's the founding Citizens Acting for Rail Safety group in La Crosse. That's who I got the information from about the victims, because they did a vigil on the first anniversary of the movement, and I did it the next year. So I don't know where they got the information from, but I do appreciate having that. And their lives, their memories will live on, however we can help with that.
Mark, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, just is my audio okay?
Yeah, we can
okay.
hear you. Mark Burrows
Okay.
is another member of Railroad Workers United, who's also been working very hard on the issue of rail safety and is very familiar with the issues of the Lac-Mégantic derailment.
Sorry I'm so late. I've been tied up with a conference all day, and it took me longer than I thought it would.
You follow my better late than never policy. You're here.
All right. Thanks for your absolution. I just wanted to say that when this happened, for veteran rail labor safety advocates, it hurt. It was a gut punch, because we always knew something tragic like this could happen. And it's not that we were naive that we were going to be able to prevent it. But certainly that motivated us to try to advocate for safety, to advocate for stronger unions, to call out the unsafe practices that the carriers were doing, that we knew was the equivalent of playing Russian roulette with the lives of workers and communities. And so when this happened, it just hurt, not only from the tragedy itself of the empathy for the tragic loss of life of the citizens of Lac-Mégantic, but it hurt because we knew this could have been prevented. We knew this didn't have to happen. In our advocacy, we were hoping to prevent something like this from happening, and it just really hurt. And so this just, along with East Palestine, it just redoubles our efforts. It adds that fuel to the fire to continue to fight. We may not be able to prevent the next one, like Sarah just said. I mean, something like this, there were unique circumstances for this incident. There were different unique circumstances for East Palestine, and some other totally different unique circumstances could cause the next tragedy tomorrow anywhere that hazardous cargo goes through a community, and we may not be able to prevent it, but we can call it out, and hopefully we can make carriers and the governments that are complicit, make them ultimately pay the political price. What form that takes, I mean, my personal opinion, there are people that should be in jail regarding Lac-Mégantic and regarding East Palestine and other incidents where workers have been killed. So all we can do is just keep doing what we're doing, and we will continue to do so. And I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Just a reminder, if anybody has any pictures to share, I see, Fritz, that you put one in there we're collecting pictures of bouquets, either near the public railroad crossings, or even just with a message of your name, and we'd like to share those with Robert and Gilbert. Any other final thoughts? Well, then I want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to say God bless Lac-Mégantic. You guys are still in our prayers. You will continue to be in our prayers, and we'll continue to advocate for your cause.
Thank you, Jerry, and everybody. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Love to you all.
Thanks for organizing this. Thank you.
Well, we're looking forward to yours tomorrow.
Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.